Hello from World of Freight. It is my great pleasure to introduce and welcome Mr. Mark Ramirez here with me for this WOF interview. Hello, Mark. Greetings to Florida.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time and being part of the WOF Alliance. Very
Pleasure,
exciting times.
pleasure on our side. You just recently joined the network with your company, DGL Global Logistics. So glad to have you on board. And I would like to, ask you a few questions also for the other members to give them an opportunity to let you know a little bit through this mode. So first of all, I always start, asking people a little bit on their personal background and the story of how they why and how they chose to work for this industry. So if you would like to share a little bit from your personal experience, it would be great.
Yes, thank you for the question. First of all, we ended up in the world of freight. How? Who knows? No, just kidding. Basically, it we started this company in 1992, the original company. Um, it was a family business. The outcome was that at the time, I don't know if you guys were familiar, but there was a carrier called Eastern Airlines
Mhm.
that they had their hub in Miami, Florida. My mom worked at Eastern Airlines, and in 1991, they filed for bankruptcy. And she was in marketing and met someone that was in the freight business and advised her you should study for the customs exam. So, long story short, she did it, she passed the exam, and in 92, she opened up the business. I was in college studying marketing, and a month later, I decided to join the company. That was in 1992. It's been 33 years now involved in freight. So I've done every aspect of the business. I started as a messenger, running papers to US Customs, then warehouse worker, then import and export orders, then customs brokerage. And
Mhm.
then in 2000, I became a licensed customs house broker. So, and our company, little by little throughout the years, starting offering more services. You know, we started just as brokerage, then we started warehousing, then became IATA, then FMC. So that's the story of the company, how it developed, and been doing it since I was 19 years old. So it's been a long journey, an exciting journey. What I love about the logistics industry, it's allowed me to travel the world, meet many interesting people in many interesting countries, so that most people do not get to experience that. And I was able to do it due to being involved in logistics. So that's been very exciting, and just looking for the future and continued growth of the company. And DGL is a new chapter. We're starting again. We had originally sold our original company back in 2019 and decided to start again in 24. So this is a new chapter, but we already, have been approved by, all the licenses with US Customs, with FMC. So we already have everything in order and just ready to rock and roll. Yes.
There's also one of the questions which I would like to ask is that how do you keep the balance, if you're working with basically you have the situation of the work and a home
Correct.
situation at the
Correct.
same time,
Yeah,
right?
it
How
is.
do you
Yeah. At one time, we had myself, my mother, my father, my sister, my brother-in-law, my wife. We
Wow.
were all part of the company. So the way we balanced it was during working hours, we speak about work. You know, when we're home together as a family, no discussing of work. And the main thing is egos. We have to work as a team and with the same goal, not to see who
Mhm.
outbeats who, oh, because I
Mhm.
want the higher position, or why do you have the higher position? And,
Mhm.
have that understanding of everyone's role. Okay, maybe you are better at the operation aspect,
Mhm.
Okay, you're in charge of the operations. You're maybe better at, dealing with the customers. You do the customers, and then everyone, gets their particular role, some more important than others, and just the family members understanding the process and not mix business with pleasure.
So,
Like
yeah.
we do family vacations every year, all of
Mm-hmm.
us.
Mm-hmm.
So and family vacation, no work. It's time for vacation. Work when we're in the office. If we are together at home on a regular day and we want to talk about it, okay, we can discuss it, but
Mm-hmm.
try to avoid it as much as possible on your personal time. Leave work during working hours. And the main thing is getting along as a family and putting egos aside and working for one goal, for the
Mm.
continue to for the company to succeed. That is the most important part when you have a family business.
Mm. Okay, I
Yeah.
get you. Thanks for the tip on that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you've mentioned to me before that you have a niche that you are focusing on, which is hospitality and also textile industry. It's quite an
Correct.
interesting niche. How do you, came across this, and also, how do you see the network can help you pursue some of your business goals related to this kind of business?
Yeah, the niche of hospitality and fabrics and textiles just happened by coincidence.
Hmm.
We had a customer that we started handling their fabrics, and they've been a customer of ours since 1996. And through our network that we've used and the service that we have provided, these customers have recommended many other importers of hospitality.
Mm.
So we've been able to grow just by referrals from either the suppliers overseas that are happy with our services that we're providing it, and that's when the network is very important because our face at the origin is the agents that we're using. So the service that they provide us is how we continue to grow.
Mhm.
So through the suppliers in many countries like in India and Turkey, they have recommended our services to their customers that are having issues with freight, and this is how little by little we continue to grow in the industry. And the most important thing with the hospitality industry is that many of the projects are under contract, so they have deadlines. So service is very important because what happens is if a hotel is going to have a grand opening and if the freight hasn't shown up, every day they're delayed, our customer gets hit with a penalty. And it's on their contract. So it's a very, I didn't even know how important this stuff was until we started handling. It's like, I tell people sometimes it's like if somebody's waiting for a heart and a heart surgery, because that's how urgent they treat this. Like it has to be here now.
Wow.
So you really have to depend on your partners to provide you that extra service because it is very service orientated because of
Of
either launches of hotels,
course.
openings of hotels.
Mhm.
So in that aspect, it is very important to do so. And we've been able to, you know, really grow in that industry, represent a lot of importers that, either in Chicago, Miami, New York, Los Angeles, that are in the hospitality industry and be able to provide it. And the good thing about this business, a lot of it is air because it's time sensitive. So you have, 4 or 5,000 kilos that you're shipping by air because it's time sensitive.
Mhm.
Uh, so it is, a good set of business to handle because it is profitable in the long run. It's stressful, very stressful, but in the
Mhm.
long run, it does pay off.
So,
Yeah.
can you name some best case situation or scenario recently that you've helped to assist with, and you are really happy with the outcome?
I was thinking about that because that's one of the questions I did see and that I did put some thought into.
Okay.
And I was thinking, recently, like of a big milestone. Recently, I really don't recall like in the last couple months, but about a year and a half ago, we had a big project that was a very exciting project. That it was going to Venezuela, and it was for polar beer. Okay, it's the beer Polar from Venezuela, and
Mhm.
they were buying all the equipment, these large equipment
Mhm.
from the Midwest, like India, these big manufacturers, and then we were receiving in our warehouse these monstrous machines, to prepare, the cans and the to send it to their plant because they were building a new plant in near Caracas, Venezuela, and
Mhm.
that was a very interesting project just because of the size of everything that the move the freight from Indiana to
Mhm.
Miami, was very because it was well oversized. Everything was so it was a very challenging project, and it was a very exciting project because not only uh, because of the size and the dimensions of the freight, but also like it was going to to a distribution company that here, especially like in Miami, everybody's very familiar with the polar beer because it's a Venezuelan beer. So a lot of South American products, are sold here in Miami.
Mhm.
So it was cool to be part of a project of a company that's so large in that in Venezuela, and the product is so known here in Miami. So it was good to be part of that, and it was impressive, and it took a lot of teamwork and a lot of good vendors. Because remember, the most important thing in logistics is just like this about agents, you have to have a good set of vendors. When it comes
Mhm.
to trucking, with flatbeds, what you need people that you can depend on,
Mhm.
that they're going to go the extra mile for you to provide the service. So our goal is always to align ourselves, not always with the cheapest price, because that's not our philosophy. Our philosophy is provide the best possible service for our customers. We never want to be expensive or overpriced, but we're not looking for the lowest prices. We're looking
Mhm.
for synergies of um, matching up with vendors and agents that have our philosophy where, okay, we don't need to make a killing on every shipment. We want to provide the service for our customers and move forward and continue the business because this business is repeating business. You don't want to make $5,000 on a file and then that's it. You never do another shipment for that customer because at the end of the day, they say, wow, these guys really charge us a lot of money. What we want to be is, okay, we want to make a good profit, but the most important thing is provide the service. So at the end of the project, the customer looks back and is like, wow, they made everything easy. It was one phone call and they took it from there. And that's one of our philosophy of our company is that offering A to Z services. We like to be in control of the entire shipment, and we can because we provide the brokerage service because we're the licensed broker. We provide the warehousing because we have warehousing. It's most of our contracts are under our FMC license. So we are in control of majority of the aspects. Yeah, we have some vendors we got to use like trucking companies and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but we try to control the outcome as much as possible. And
Mhm.
that's why, you know, lining up with companies that have similar train of thought that the goal is to provide the service to the customer is where this alliance becomes very important because knowing someone that you're being introduced or meeting in one of these summits and you can have that contact and hopefully set up business and have the same train of thought of okay,
Mhm.
our goal is to provide the best possible service for the customer. So that's why I did like that project because it took a lot, and at the end of the day it went flawless and they were very happy, and it was a big project for a well-known brand, so it was very interesting.
You mentioned that you are owning your warehousing facility, right? And also, one thing I wanted to a little bit discuss with you is that you have a pretty wide like coverage of the services given the size of the company. So how do you ensure, the consistency and the quality across all the modes of transport that you are able to cover?
Correct. Yes, that is first of all, you got to align yourself up with good employees.
Mhm.
That is are, very important in this industry. You need to make sure your employees are rewarded and they're appreciated, because you have to have a lot of trust in your employees. Okay. They're operating, especially when it comes to customs, under your licenses. So if anything goes wrong, it is your license that is in jeopardy, not them. They have no, accountability except maybe getting fired. So
Mm.
it's very important to align yourself with very good, trustworthy employees,
Mhm.
and then just have good supervision. Our strategy with our employees is we trust you 100%. We're not going to micromanage you, okay? But we are going to be reviewing, what you're doing and making sure you're doing it correct. But we're not going to come up to you every 5 minutes and ask you what you're doing. So having a team of managers and then me at the end overseeing everything, because with the customs brokerage especially, uh, is just constantly monitoring everything and looking at everything, being involved in everybody's email. Make
And
sure you get,
learning too, right?
yeah, learning, yeah, and making sure you're CC'd in all the emails. I want to make sure I know everything that's happening. I don't care if it's an air export, an ocean export, a customs brokerage. You need to include me so I know what is happening. And as soon as I see an email from a customer, that they respond back with some type of negative feedback, then I immediately will get involved. So it's just a lot of overseeing. I have my team. They each have, the way we work is that we have account executives that they represent. Okay, these are your customers, these are the 10 that you handle.
Mhm.
So and then basically they do all the operations, and I just oversee every aspect of the business to make sure it's functioning and running correctly, and constant contact with the customers to make sure that everything is going as planned. And the good thing is that when you do have all the licenses and you can cut out some of the middlemen, you have more control of your shipments. When we the second time around, we were like, oh, maybe we shouldn't get into warehousing. It's a big expense,
Mm.
huge expense, warehousing. But when you're using a third party vendor for a warehouse, then you are at their mercy. A shipment comes in and your customer wants it out immediately,
Mm.
and you got to depend on that warehouse to provide you the information, and it's on their terms.
Yeah.
So that's why we was like, oh, no, no, we got to get back in the warehouse. We got to control our shipments. We got to make sure that when a shipper delivers something to our warehouse, we're ready to turn it around and ship it. So these little things is why we got involved in every aspect, so we can have more control of the overall product.
Mm. That's smart and
Yeah, and
makes
it's just
perfect
a
sense.
lot of this business. A mistake can cost you a lot of money. You know, a shipment comes in. Let's just give you an example. Air freight now that comes in here in the U.S. You only have 24 hours to pick up that cargo. If not, it goes into storage. So if your employee is not focused and is not doing their job, if a shipment came in on Sunday and then they come to work on Monday, which is the last free day, and they're not doing their job, on Tuesday you're going to have a couple $1,000s of demerge, because 1,000 kilos at 75 cents a kilo per day, is a lot of money. So you got to make sure you've trained your employees the correct way and making sure that their philosophy is the same as yours.
Mm.
Okay. So because a lot of mistake can cost you a lot of money,
Mm.
and penalties, always, for example, an ISF here, when those shipments coming in, we're always on top of our agents. You got to send
Mm.
us the ISF 48 hours prior to sailing, because what happens if we sail it late, and we got to get permission from our surety company to file it, and our customer has the possibility of getting a $5,000 penalty. So, very, very important. Compliance. We're
Mistakes.
very important. I handle, like, here in the US, we have the TSA for air exports, right? The Transportation Security Administration. So I am, the coordinator, that the TSA reaches out to me. So I'm constantly making sure we're following all the protocol for the TSA. So when we do get audit, everything is in order. With the
Mm.
FMC, I'm the, qualifying individual. So basically, I'm making sure that all the compliance is in order for every type of service, and then having the team that can do the service correctly
Mm.
and
You
responsibly is
must be
key.
very diligent person.
Oh man, yeah. Listen, I wanted out a while back. I wanted out of the industry because it is very
Can be
stressful, and it
overwhelming.
takes, and you're 24/7, and
Mm.
ever since the invention of the iPhone and the BlackBerry, since the BlackBerry,
You
that
can't,
you have
can't
no
escape.
excuses.
Yeah.
You have your emails are coming in 24/7. You have to respond. So it's like
Mm.
it's just something that you're either built for it or not. Okay, are you going to do this or not? Some people know it. Some people at 5:30, I clock out. Whatever happens, happens. I'll
Mm.
worry about it the next day. My personality is not like that. I look at my emails until I go to sleep.
Mm.
And on the weekends, first thing I do when I wake up, even though the office is closed, is look at the emails.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's just something that it's part
It's
of you. You're either going to do
nice.
it or you're not going to do it.
Right. You must have a mindset for this
You have to have
industry.
a mindset. That is the
And
correct.
let's
Correct.
hope the AI and the tech is going to, lift a little bit of that burden off your
Yes.
shoulders
Yes.
with some
Yes.
new softs and tools.
Well, yeah, with the
Uh,
software now, exactly. Software nows have made things a lot easier, a little bit easier, um, in the operational part,
mhm.
because the softwares do everything for you now. It's incredible, and with knowledge and technology, like before, to find something, it was like so difficult. Now you're trying to locate something, you just go on the internet in two
Yeah.
seconds, you can find it. Before it was much, much harder. Like I
Mm.
tell some of my employees that are younger, you guys don't understand how easy it is now compared to, when you had to type up forms to send to the customs. You're receiving faxes, or even before the fax, it was like, so now everything is easier,
But
but
also faster, right?
faster, yes. And the
Everything is
difference
speeds.
now is
Mm.
the pace is faster, and the difference now is that the consumer, which is the customer, is way more informed than
Mhm.
they were in the 90s. So,
Mhm.
they have more access to rates, they have more access to information at customs websites, they have a lot more access and a lot more information. Before, it was more, okay, they needed you to give them the information. Now they still depend on you to give them the information, but they have other avenues of seeing if what you're
Mhm.
telling them is true or not. And that's why you got to make sure that you're providing fair pricing to the customer and everything, because the information is easily obtained now. That
Mm.
before, brokers and forwarders, we had a little bit more flexibility because the only way they would get the information was via us. you
Mm.
know so that's made the industry, a little bit, more difficult. It's general information everywhere for everybody now.
Mm.
And everybody thinks now they're a licensed broker because they can go on the internet and say, even with this duty stuff now with the US, all my customers are going, oh, but look, I saw this person. Yeah, but I don't care what they're posting in the internet. You know, that's not official. I'll tell you when it's official. When I get something from US Customs saying this is what's going to happen and this is the day it's going to happen, then I'll tell you, okay, you're
Mm.
going to get hit with this amount of duties
Mm.
starting this date. But there's a million press releases, a million articles saying a million different things that they're going up and typing, oh, U.S. tariffs, and they're getting 1,000 stories, and that's just one of the examples of how information is spread now.
Mhm.
That also confuses certain customers.
It's a chaos, yeah. Mm,
Yeah.
really understand. So,
Yeah.
Mark, do you have any plans in terms of expansion and like expanding, especially in terms of geographical reach, or how do you foresee the
Well,
future for you?
right now, we have just the office in Miami.
Hmm.
We are already negotiating for a space in the New York, New Jersey um, area,
Hmm.
that a warehouse there, and obviously we'll provide all the services there. But we used to do a lot of distribution out of our warehouse there in New Jersey from
Hmm.
Europe cargo and Middle East cargo,
Hmm.
that our customers would consolidate freight and then send it to our warehouse, and we would distribute it for them throughout the U.S. So we're looking to get back into that area now. The New Jersey, New York area, New York, Jersey ports are I think it's the top two or three port in the U.S. So it's a very port, especially for European consolidations and things like that. So that's our next step, which we are already been negotiating for a couple months for a space there. So I think within the next couple months we'll be set up with a warehouse distribution in New Jersey, and then obviously region, Europe and Asia are strong allies for imports. Okay. And the Middle East, we do a lot of Middle East too. And then for our exports, a big market obviously in Miami is South America and Central America. That's the difference with Miami than a lot of other ports in the US, that 90% of the freight that's routed to Central South America or the Caribbean ends up sailing out of or flying out of Miami, because the carriers just don't, have, maybe New York, they have a little bit, but outside of that, everything is coming down to Miami to ship to these countries. So that's one of our big markets that we do a lot with Brazil, a lot with Argentina, Chile, Peru. So on the export side, we receive goods in our warehouse and then consolidate for our offices in Central and South America, which is and Dominican Republic is a big one for us too. I saw you guys have a agent, excuse me, in Dominican Republic, which I might reach out to them to reach the manufacturer and see, because right now they're working directly with the carriers, and I want to see if we can get their business, because I never had someone that was reliable in Dominican Republic, so that's why I never even approached the business. But now seeing that, it's very interesting, because those are like those little areas when agents it makes it important. That's why the part of the WOF is very important for us, because now if we have a reliable agent that we can get business out of, or that place that we have business, and now we can offer the services. Because the worst thing is getting the business and then losing it because you didn't provide the service that the customer was expecting. So be happy with the business you have. If you feel confident enough that you can offer that next service, then do it. And that's why this alliance is very important.
Great. Love it. Mark, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate sharing the information with us. It's been really interesting to listen to you, and hope we help you with many great connections, and hope to see you also at the upcoming event in Istanbul in person. And best of luck with everything. Once again, thank you so much for jumping on board for the WF Alliance, and we keep in touch.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I might have spoke a lot. Sometimes I get passionate about logistics.
That's this is part there.
I might have spoke too much, but thank you once again for your time. And like I said, very excited about meeting the members and just contributing to the alliance and providing my part and helping out whoever needs assistance in the US. Feel free, that's the main goal, just to work together and build relationships.